I deserve a new life with Chad, and your money will help us start it. My wife wrote in a farewell note as she ran away with her lover and our savings. Years later, when she came back broke, I handed her the divorce papers. Sign them, or I'll press theft charges against you. She turned pale, realizing she had lost everything. I deserve a fresh start with Ryan, and your savings will get us there. Emily scrawled in her farewell note, vanishing into the night with her lover and Mike's hard-earned money. Years later, broke and desperate, she showed up at the ranch door, only for Mike to hand her divorce papers. Sign this, or I'll press charges for theft. Her face drained of color as the weight of her betrayal crashed down. Emily met Mike at a local rodeo in Austin when she was just 22. He charmed her with his steady confidence, proposing after 6 months of dating. They married in a simple courthouse ceremony, then moved to his family's ranch in rural Texas. Mike dove into daily operations, rising at dawn to mend fences, check cattle, and negotiate with suppliers. His reliability shone through. He balanced the books meticulously, ensuring every bill got paid on time. On weekends, he organized family outings, grilling burgers at picnics where their 2 young sons laughed and played tag. Emily admired his dedication, feeling secure in the life they built together. She handled the home front, preparing meals, driving the kids to school, and tending the garden that fed them fresh produce. At first, the routine energized her. She thrived on the predictability, baking pies for neighbors and volunteering at church events. Mike surprised her with small gestures, like fixing her broken necklace or leaving notes of appreciation after long days. Their intimacy deepened in quiet evenings, sharing dreams about expanding the ranch into a thriving business. Emily believed this was the foundation for lasting happiness, watching their boys grow strong under Mike's guidance. He taught them to ride horses, instilling values of hard work and honesty. But cracks emerged slowly. Emily's days blurred into endless chores, laundry piles, meal preps, and school runs that left her exhausted. Conversations with Mike shifted to practicalities, feed costs, weather impacts on crops, upcoming vet visits. Affection waned, replaced by brief pecks before bed. She started questioning her choices, wondering if marrying young had robbed her of adventures. At 25, with 2 toddlers, she felt trapped in roles that defined her entirely. Wife, mother, homemaker. Loneliness crept in during solitary afternoons, staring at the vast Texas horizon. Ryan arrived as a seasonal hire, tasked with horse training and barn repairs. Young and charismatic, he caught Emily's eye during a routine supply run. While unloading hay, he hummed an old country tune she loved from her teens. "Haven't heard that in ages," she said, sparking their first real talk. He shared tales of hitchhiking across states, painting pictures of bustling cities and spontaneous road trips. Emily listened intently, her pulse quickening at the contrast to her structured life. Their interactions escalated. Ryan lingered after shifts, helping her with heavy loads or fixing a leaky faucet. One stormy afternoon, with Mike away at a cattle auction and kids napping, they sheltered in the kitchen. Coffee turned into confessions. Emily admitted feeling invisible, while Ryan praised her spirit, calling her vibrant and deserving of more. Tension built as glances lingered, culminating in an impulsive kiss that left her breathless. Guilt hit hard that night, but excitement overpowered it, pulling her back for stolen moments in the barn. Weeks passed in secrecy. Ryan whispered promises of escape, describing beaches in California or mountains in Colorado where they could start new. Emily resisted at first, thinking of her son's innocent faces and Mike's unwavering support. But each encounter fueled her dissatisfaction, making ranch life feel like a cage. She began siphoning small amounts from household funds, justifying it as harmless. Ryan pressed for more, revealing his own debts and dreams of opening a bar. The turning point came during a heated argument with Mike over finances. He accused her of overspending, unaware of the truth. That night, Emily accessed Mike's hidden safe, grabbing the $50,000 saved for ranch expansion. Heart pounding, she packed a bag, kissed the sleeping boys goodbye, and met Ryan at the edge of the property. They sped off in his truck toward the interstate, adrenaline surging as Texas faded in the rearview. For the first time, Emily felt liberated, laughing at the wind rushing through open windows. Ryan cranked up the radio, toasting their future with cheap beer from a gas station stop. They crossed into New Mexico by dawn, checking into a motel where they celebrated with takeout and plans. Ryan mapped routes to Vegas, promising quick wins at casinos to stretch the cash. Emily pushed doubts aside, embracing the thrill of anonymity. They adopted fake names at diners, spinning stories of being eloping lovers. In Albuquerque, they splurged on a fancy dinner, toasting to endless possibilities. But subtle warnings emerged. Ryan's phone buzzed with unknown calls, which he dismissed as old friends. As months unfolded, patterns shifted. Ryan's outings alone increased, returning late with excuses about job hunts. Money vanished faster than expected. Motel fees, gas, impulsive buys. Emily confronted him after discovering missing bills from her purse, but he deflected with charm, pulling her into embraces that reignited passion. Deep down, unease grew. She missed her son's voices, wondering if they asked for her. News from home trickled via anonymous checks online. Mike had hired help, keeping the ranch afloat while shielding the kids from scandal. Ryan's true nature surfaced in Arizona. During a roadside argument, he admitted gambling habits, losing chunks of their stash at poker tables. Emily's shock turned to anger, but he begged for one more chance, vowing to win it back in Vegas. They pressed on, tension mounting with every mile. In Sin City, neon lights dazzled, but losses piled up. Ryan disappeared for hours, returning defeated. Emily's illusions cracked. Freedom now felt like chaos. She contemplated calling home, but pride held her back. 3 years in, the funds dwindled to nothing. They bounced between cheap apartments in Nevada, Ryan taking odd jobs while Emily waitressed sporadically. Fights erupted over finances, his absences fueling suspicions of other women. One explosive night, after he vanished with their last $500, Emily searched his things, finding receipts for bars and motels. He returned defensive, packing a bag and storming out with accusations of her nagging. By morning, he was gone, along with her remaining possessions. Alone in a dingy room, Emily collapsed in despair. Job hunts failed without references, and isolation amplified regret. She scavenged for meals, selling clothes for scraps. Memories of Mike's stability haunted her, his morning routines, the boys' laughter. Exhaustion peaked after spotting a family picnicking in a park, mirroring what she lost. With no options left, she hitchhiked back to Texas, arriving at the ranch 5 years after fleeing. Mike opened the door, expression unreadable. The boys, now teens, peeked from inside, but retreated without a word. He handed her the folder, divorce terms stripping her of rights, in exchange for dropping theft charges. "Sign it," he said flatly. Emily pleaded for a talk, mentioning the kids, but he cut her off. They choose silence. Days of attempts, messages, letters, met blocks and ignores. On a quiet morning, observing her eldest from afar, ignoring her approach, the finality sank in. She signed the papers, leaving town with a backpack and unresolved pain. Mike and the boys forged ahead, their bond unbreakable. Emily drifted to another state, finding menial work but carrying eternal remorse. Betrayal's cost proved irreversible. Valuing family meant everything. Ryan stormed into the motel room late one night, reeking of smoke and defeat. Emily confronted him about the missing cash from their shared envelope, her voice trembling with accusation. He shrugged it off at first, claiming a bad tip at the bar where he bartended sporadically. But when she pressed, his temper flared, slamming a fist on the table. "You think this is easy? I'm out there hustling while you sit here whining." The argument escalated, words flying like accusations of laziness and mistrust. Emily backed down, fearing he'd leave, but suspicion lingered as she counted the remaining bills under the lamp. The next morning, they hit the road again, heading west to California, Ryan promising a fresh start in Los Angeles. He drove recklessly, weaving through traffic, while Emily clutched the dashboard, heart racing from both speed and uncertainty. They arrived in a rundown suburb, renting a studio apartment with peeling walls that amplified every creak. Ryan landed a gig at a mechanic shop, fixing cars during the day, but nights vanished into poker games at local dives. Emily took shifts at a diner, serving coffee to truckers, her tips barely covering groceries. Exhaustion built as she scrubbed counters after closing, thoughts drifting to her son's bedtime routines she once managed effortlessly. Tensions mounted during a heated dinner of takeout tacos. Ryan admitted losing $2,000 at cards, blaming a sure thing gone wrong. Emily exploded, throwing the empty container across the room. "That's our future you're gambling away." He countered by revealing her theft from Mike, twisting it into shared guilt. The fight ended in uneasy silence, but it planted seeds of doubt. She began tracking his phone secretly during his absences, discovering texts from unknown numbers arranging meets at casinos. One evening, tailing him to a neon-lit venue, she watched from afar as he laughed with a group, chips stacking and falling. The betrayal hit harder when she found casino receipts hidden in his jacket pocket. Confrontation turned physical, not violent, but shoving as he grabbed his keys and bolted. Emily chased him to the parking lot, yelling pleas for honesty. He sped off, leaving her stranded under streetlights. Hours later, he returned apologetic, pulling her into a reconciliatory embrace that reignited fleeting passion. But the cycle repeated, promises of quitting, followed by more disappearances. Money dwindled to critical lows, forcing them to pawn her wedding ring, the last tie to her past, for rent. Months blurred into survival mode. They relocated to Phoenix for cheaper living, Ryan swearing off games by joining a support group. Emily believed him briefly, enrolling in online courses for bookkeeping to rebuild skills. But temptation struck during a weekend trip to a nearby reservation casino, where he dragged her for fun. She watched helplessly as he bet their grocery fund, winning small, then losing big. The loss sparked their worst clash yet. Emily slapped the table, demanding they return home. Ryan laughed bitterly. "Home? You burned that bridge when you stole from your husband." Isolation deepened her regret. Late nights alone, she scrolled news sites for updates on the Texas ranch, learning Mike had expanded operations successfully without the stolen funds. Photos of community events showed him with the boys, now excelling in school sports. Tears flowed as she imagined their growth without her guidance. Ryan's charm faded into irritability, blaming her for their woes during drunken rants. One dawn, after he staggered and broke again, Emily packed a small bag, threatening to leave. He blocked the door, begging with tears, vowing change if she gave one more chance. Reluctantly, she stayed, but vigilance grew. She hid remaining cash in her shoe, working double shifts to replenish it. Ryan noticed, accusing her of hoarding, leading to a standoff where he rifled through her things. Finding the stash, he pocketed half for emergencies, igniting fury. Emily lunged for it, grappling briefly before he pushed her away and stormed out. That night marked a shift. She contacted an old friend via payphone, probing for advice on returning anonymously. The call ended in sobs, the friend urging caution amid rumors of Mike's hardened resolve. As winter approached, Ryan's debts caught up. Collectors knocked on their door, demanding payment for loans he took in her name. Panic surged. Emily forged signatures to stall them, but legal threats loomed. Ryan vanished for 2 days, returning with bruises from a botched deal. He confessed borrowing from shady lenders to cover gambling losses, pulling them deeper into danger. Emily's fear peaked during a midnight escape from the apartment, fleeing enforcers who trashed their place. They drove aimlessly through deserts, sleeping in the truck, her trust shattered. In a dusty Nevada town, the final unraveling hit. Ryan proposed one last high-stakes game to clear debts, dragging her to an underground poker den. She waited outside, nerves frayed as hours ticked by. Gunshots echoed faintly, chaos from a raid. Ryan emerged unscathed, but empty-handed, the pot seized by authorities. Blame shifted to her for bad luck, but Emily saw through it. The confrontation in their motel solidified her resolve. She demanded he leave alone. He refused, grabbing the keys and driving off with their vehicle and last possessions. Stranded, Emily hitched a ride to a shelter, collapsing into exhausted sleep. Awakening to reality, she pawned her phone for bus fare, heading east with fragmented plans. Regret intensified with each mile, visions of Mike's steady life contrasting her turmoil. She vowed to rebuild independently, but whispers of returning home echoed louder. Meanwhile, back in Texas, Mike hired detectives subtly, tracking leads on the stolen funds without alerting the boys. His quiet preparation built toward inevitable confrontation. Word of her plight reached distant acquaintances, fueling small-town gossip that hardened community views. Emily, unaware, pressed on, taking a cleaning job in Colorado to save for transport. Emotional strain mounted during solitary shifts, mopping floors while replaying betrayals. A chance encounter with a traveler, sharing stories of family redemption, sparked tentative hope. She wrote unsent letters to her sons, pouring out apologies, sealing them in her bag as talismans. Ryan resurfaced via a frantic call weeks later, begging for bailout from jail after a fraud charge. Emily hung up, blocking the number, severing the toxic tie. Empowerment surged. She boarded a bus southward, stealing for the unknown. Arrival in Texas loomed, tension coiling like a spring ready to snap. Mike, sensing shifts through informants, fortified legal papers, ensuring justice without vengeance. The stage set for reunion, where action's consequences would unfold relentlessly. Emily trudged through Denver's snowy streets, her backpack heavy with scavenged cans from dumpsters. She applied for a cashier position at a convenience store, fumbling answers during the interview about gaps in her resume. The manager hired her on probation, assigning overnight shifts restocking shelves. Wages covered a shared hostel bed, but sleep evaded her amid roommates' snores and arguments. Nightmares replayed Ryan's abandonment, waking her in sweats, clutching the empty space beside her. Determination faltered after a customer recognized her from a missing persons flyer circulated years ago. He whispered questions about the ranch scandal, forcing her to quit abruptly to avoid scrutiny. Relocating to Salt Lake City by bus, she landed a warehouse job packing boxes, her hands blistering from repetitive motions. Earnings went to cheap motels, but loneliness amplified during breaks, staring at coworkers sharing family photos on phones. She avoided calls home, fearing rejection, yet curiosity drove her to a library computer for discreet searches. Typing Ryan's name yielded arrest records, multiple fraud convictions predating their meeting, including embezzlement from prior employers. Shock paralyzed her. She printed the articles, rereading them under a desk lamp that flickered erratically. Evidence mounted. He had targeted vulnerable women before, vanishing with assets. Rage boiled over in her room, tearing the papers and vowing self-reliance. But finances crumbled when a paycheck bounced due to her forged ID, leaving her evicted. Hitchhiking southward, she bartered labor for rides, cleaning truck cabs, or sharing gas costs. In Oklahoma, a driver offered temporary farmhand work, mucking stalls reminiscent of Texas duties. The physical toll exhausted her, but interactions with the owner's kids stirred buried maternal instincts. One evening, overhearing their bedtime stories, she broke down, confessing fragments of her past to the sympathetic wife. Advice poured in. Face consequences head-on for closure. 2 more years dragged in transient jobs. Waitressing in Kansas diners, folding laundry in Missouri services, each move southward inching closer to confrontation. Savings trickled away on bus fares and meals, forcing her to sell a necklace Mike once gifted. Emotional barriers cracked during a church service in Arkansas, where a sermon on redemption prompted her first anonymous email to an old neighbor, inquiring about the boys' well-being. The reply detailed their achievements, the eldest winning a science fair, the youngest starring in soccer leagues, all under Mike's sole care. Guilt intensified, propelling her to pawn final belongings for a one-way ticket to Austin. Arrival coincided with a rodeo festival, crowds masking her approach to the ranch outskirts. She observed from a distance, Mike directing workers, his commands firm yet fair, expanding operations with new barns funded through loans. The boys, now lanky teens, helped load hay bales, their coordination seamless without her influence. Stealthy attempts to eavesdrop revealed community respect for Mike's resilience, labeling her departure a betrayal that strengthened him. Nerves peaked as she walked the dirt path to the door, knocking firmly. Mike answered mid-conversation on his phone, pausing to assess her presence. No words exchanged initially. He motioned her inside to the kitchen table, where legal documents waited. "You've got 2 options," he stated, sliding the divorce packet forward. It outlined full custody to him, asset forfeiture, and silence on the theft in exchange for her signature. Emily scanned clauses, hands shaking, pleading for a family meeting. He refused outright, citing the boy's explicit wish to avoid contact. Tension escalated as she insisted on explanations, but Mike countered with evidence. Bank records tracing the stolen funds trail, compiled by a private investigator. The revelation stunned her. He had known partial details for years, but withheld action for the children's sake. Voices rose. Emily accused him of cruelty, while he highlighted her choice's ripple effects on their stability. The boys entered unexpectedly from chores, freezing at the sight. The eldest stepped forward protectively, declaring, "We don't need you here." Hurt sliced deep, but Emily persisted, offering apologies laced with excuses about seeking fulfillment. Mike intervened, ushering them out and demanding her decision by sunset. Alone with the papers, she weighed freedom against accountability, the clock ticking toward irreversible closure. Sunset brought her scrawled signature, sealing the deal. Mike nodded curtly, handing a small envelope with bus fare back to town. No more, no less. Departure loomed under darkening skies, her steps heavy with unresolved anguish. Back in a motel, she drafted letters to the boys, detailing regrets without demands, mailing them via a post office drop. Responses never came, amplifying isolation as she boarded transport eastward, plot twisting towards solitary atonement. Emily boarded a Greyhound bus headed to Nashville, clutching the receipt from pawning her last trinket, a bracelet from her wedding day. The journey stretched over bumpy interstates, her mind racing through scenarios of rebuilding without ties. Arrival dumped her in a bustling terminal, where she scanned job listings on a public board, circling ads for hotel maids. Securing a position at a downtown inn required falsifying references, but the manager overlooked discrepancies for immediate start. Duties involved changing linens and vacuuming corridors, her arms aching by shift's end. Paychecks funded a cramped efficiency apartment above a noisy bar, where thumping bass disrupted sleep. She enrolled in evening GED classes at a community center, scribbling notes on budgeting and basic computing to erase employment gaps. Progress stalled when a classmate mentioned online forums discussing infamous elopements, prompting Emily to search her own name on a library terminal. Results flooded with local Texas articles labeling her a deserter, quoting Mike's stoic interviews about single parenting triumphs. Shame surged, deleting the history before logging off. Attempts to connect digitally intensified. She created a pseudonymous social media account, friending distant relatives for indirect updates. One cousin responded briefly, sharing photos of the boys at a high school graduation, the eldest receiving a scholarship, the youngest captaining a debate team. Emily messaged them anonymously, praising achievements without revealing identity. Blocks followed swiftly, notifications pinging rejections that twisted her gut. Undeterred, she mailed handmade cards via forwarded addresses, enclosing drawings of ranch scenes from memory, hoping to evoke shared nostalgia. Rebuffs accumulated like unpaid bills. A returned package arrived shredded, contents scattered, forcing her to confront futility during a solo walk through city parks. Employment stabilized with a promotion to front desk clerk, handling check-ins and resolving complaints, her politeness masking inner turmoil. Savings grew modestly, allocated to therapy sessions at a free clinic, where sessions unpacked abandonment's roots through role-playing exercises. Insights emerged. Her impulsiveness stemmed from unaddressed youth traumas, but accountability rested solely on her shoulders. News of Ryan's fate trickled via an unexpected email from a mutual acquaintance, incarcerated for identity theft in California, facing years behind bars. Satisfaction mingled with pity, prompting her to donate anonymously to a fraud victims fund, channeling remorse productively. Back home, echoes persisted. She volunteered at a youth shelter, mentoring runaways with cautionary tales stripped of personal details. One teen's story mirrored hers, fleeing stability for illusion, spurring Emily to advocate for family counseling referrals. Tensions crested during a holiday season alone, decorating a tiny tree with scavenged ornaments. A phone call to the ranch line went unanswered, voicemail full of static silence. She hung up, drafting a final outreach, a video message emailed to Mike's business account, admitting full fault and requesting mediated contact. His reply arrived encrypted, a cease and desist letter from his lawyer, warning of harassment charges if pursuits continued. Devastation hit, crumpling the printout and igniting a bonfire of old mementos in a park barrel. Relocation beckoned again. She applied for transfers within the hotel chain, landing in Atlanta. New routines involved training staff and managing inventories, her efficiency earning commendations. Emotional scars lingered, manifesting in avoided mirrors during breakdowns. A support group for estranged parents provided outlets, sharing strategies for indirect amends like funding scholarships in the boys' names anonymously. Implementation followed, wiring funds to their school foundation, receipt confirming receipt without acknowledgement. Plot thickened with an unforeseen link. A former neighbor's relocation to Georgia, spotting Emily at a grocery checkout. Conversation ensued cautiously, revealing the boys' thriving independence, college acceptances, and part-time jobs mirroring Mike's work ethic. The neighbor relayed no lingering animosity, but firm boundaries against reconnection. Emily nodded acceptance, gratitude softening the blow. This encounter catalyzed closure pursuits, enrolling in writing workshops to pen unpublished memoirs as catharsis. As seasons cycled, self-forgiveness inched forward through daily affirmations recited during commutes. Professional growth peaked with a supervisory role, overseeing teams and budgets, echoing skills once dismissed. Yet voids persisted, filled partially by fostering a stray cat, its companionship easing solitude. Final actions solidified resolve, establishing a trust for the boys' future expenses, managed through a neutral attorney, ensuring benefits without direct involvement. Notifications of setup went unresponded, but fulfillment derived from unilateral restitution. Emily secured a modest bookkeeping role at a logistics firm in Charlotte, North Carolina, inputting invoices and reconciling accounts daily. Precision in numbers offered structure, her fingers flying over keyboards during overtime hours to meet deadlines. Promotions eluded her initially due to spotty history, but consistent performance earned a raise after 6 months, funding a one-bedroom rental in a quiet suburb. She audited personal finances rigorously, allocating portions to debt repayment from past evasions, checks mailed anonymously to creditors Ryan had entangled her with. Closure pursuits evolved into structured philanthropy. She partnered with a nonprofit aiding single parents, donating time to sort donations and counsel applicants on resource navigation. Interactions highlighted parallels to Mike's challenges, deepening empathy without direct parallels drawn. One session involved mediating a custody dispute, her advice steering toward legal mediation over impulsive flights. Feedback from participants affirmed her growth, yet internal conflicts surfaced during drives home, radio news of family reunions triggering envy. Digital boundaries tested limits when she discovered a public forum post from her eldest son discussing college majors in agriculture engineering. Temptation to comment anonymously arose, but she refrained, closing the tab to prevent escalation. Instead, she channeled energy into certification courses online, earning credentials in financial advising to assist low-income families. Client successes, helping a mother secure grants, mirrored potential paths she forfeited, stirring quiet satisfaction amid persistent voids. News of Mike's remarriage reached via a forwarded newsletter from the Texas Chamber of Commerce, detailing his community award for ranch sustainability. Photos attached showed him with a new partner at events. The boys integrated seamlessly into expanded family dynamics. Jealousy flared briefly, extinguished by acknowledgement of deserved progress. Emily responded by volunteering more hours, organizing fundraisers that raised thousands for child welfare programs. Emotional peaks hit during a workshop on forgiveness, where exercises required listing harms caused and steps for redress. She compiled a private dossier, outlining impacts on her son's formative years, then burned it ritualistically in a controlled fire pit, symbolizing release without expectation. Professional networks expanded, leading to a speaking engagement at a recovery seminar, sharing abstracted lessons on consequences of hasty decisions. Attendees' questions probed deeper, forcing her to articulate accountability's weight without evasion. Years accumulated, marking a decade since departure. She invested savings in a small condo purchase, signing deeds that echoed the divorce finality. Routine solidified. Morning jogs cleared thoughts, evenings devoted to reading biographies of resilient figures. A surprise inheritance from a distant aunt provided buffer funds, which she directed toward educational endowments for underprivileged youth in Texas, routed through intermediaries. The boys' milestones filtered indirectly, graduations, first jobs, via public records she accessed ethically. Pride swelled without intrusion, her role reduced to silent observer. Mike's enterprise thrived, articles crediting his innovation in eco-farming, family unity as cornerstone. Emily's life, though solitary, gained purpose through advocacy, testifying in local hearings on support systems for estranged kin. Final reckonings crystallized during a health scare, a minor surgery requiring recovery leave. Bedridden reflections dissected choices cascades, thefts ripple to trust erosion, absences void in legacies. Post-op, she drafted wills bequeathing assets to causes aligned with family preservation, ensuring indirect benefits. Discharge brought renewed vigor, resuming work with enhanced focus on ethical practices. Betrayal's legacy endured as cautionary anchor, guiding interactions toward transparency. She mentored a young colleague fleeing a toxic relationship, advising measured exits over abrupt ruptures. Success in that guidance reinforced the narrative. Actions bear irreversible fruits. Valuing bonds demands vigilance. Mike and Sons forged unbreakable paths, their strength a testament to resilience. Emily persisted in quiet atonement, her existence a mosaic of lessons learned, underscoring that redemption lies in ongoing deeds, not erased pasts.